Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah. Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah.
As in alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Welcome to another session of our hadith class, and these are hadiths that will help us to have a longer, more productive life. And let's put the hadith that's up for discussion tonight on the screen. And the source of this hadith is Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, and it goes hand in hand with the hadith we discussed yesterday. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the voluntary prayer of a man in a place where no one can see him is equal to 25 times his prayer where people can see him. Now, what is this talking about? This is not talking about praying in congregation. Okay, this is for a man who is unable to get to the mosque. Like a lot of you people do on TV. Like one of the things that really bothered me was one day I was watching the news and they showed this man standing in the mall, in a shopping mall, screaming the adhan at the top of his lungs, and then screaming the iqamat. And then he stood there, Allahu Akbar, praying inside the mall. And then he gonna say a violation of his civil rights when the police came and tried to get him up off the floor when he was prostrating. And I'm like, what an idiot. First of all, who goes to a mall to perform their prayer? I said, and he's doing it in public with all these people walking around, and we already had 9/11. Everybody in America knows one thing that you don't yell in the public is Allahu Akbar, because they're going to think you dropping a bomb on them. You know, I said, this is a show off. And this hadith shows that the voluntary prayer in a place where no one can see you is equal to 25 times the prayer where people can see you. Now, this idiot wasn't praying a voluntary prayer. He was praying Dur, Asr, Maghrib, or Isha. Where should he have been? He should have been at the masjid performing them. The voluntary prayers, these are the sunnahs. You pray them at home, you know, where no one can see you. We talked about that when we did our class on the prayer. A man should perform the sunnah prayers, the voluntary prayers at home, and the obligatory prayers at the mosque. You know, so again, this prevents you from being a fool like this man was, showing off in public. And when the police escorted him out of there with handcuffs on, he filed a civil suit talking about discrimination of religion. What an idiot. And when he went to court, they did have scholars called in who said that a man is supposed to pray at the mosque. And there was a mosque down the street. So what the heck was he doing at the mall? I don't know. We have to be careful, guys, when we perform our obligations to Allah, that we perform them out of sincerity of intentions to please Allah, not to get recognition or fame, or maybe he was trying to get a lawsuit. And that's what you learn from this hadith. And again, you see here from this hadith that Allah multiplies the rewards when you do it alone, where others can't see, because that helps to prevent you from wanting to show off. So it's something that you brothers and sisters need to think about. You know, Allah likes all of our deeds to be done in private as opposed to being done publicly. because it will cause you, Shaitan, will cause you to do it for the fame, do it for the recognition, instead of doing a deed for Allah. So now, what do you guys think? How does this hadith impact you in your life? Anyone, take the mic.
I thought something like I thought you're supposed to do, but it didn't say. Was that a sunnah prayer?
That said voluntary.
So it wasn't.
Prayers. Remember, we talked about how for a Muslim man, the man is supposed to perform the obligatory prayer at the mosque, the sunnahs, and the voluntary prayer. Sunnah is a voluntary prayer. We don't have to do the sunnahs. The voluntary prayers, you should perform them at home. That's how you teach your family to pray.
So which one was this right here?
This was a voluntary prayer.
Well, okay. So Allah said that he get more rewards doing it. Sound like he's saying it, he's supposed to do it by himself, like in the closet.
No.
Like how
it means is doing it not to show off, doing it at home in your house with your family, rather than doing like the man and the fool in the news did, standing up in the mall where everybody can see him.
okay. Because I was saying I thought he's supposed to do it at home with his wife and his kids.
This is another hadith that speaks about the virtues of performing the voluntary prayers at home. It translates into English to be where no one can see. But when you read the Arabic, no one can see you at home. It's at home, at home. And that's why I gave the scenario. Another example, remember the big escapade? All these imams were traveling from New York and they prayed in the airport. Come on. Another example, what are you doing praying in an airport? You were traveling. You could have combined your prayers before you left home. You know, we have to stop showing off. So many of us like to be show-offs. We want to make it like, oh, the world owes us a prayer room or owe us something. For you Muslim men, your reward is in the mosque for the obligatory prayers. The voluntary prayers are to be prayed at home where no one can see you. No one can see you in your home, Amina. But we see you in the airport. We see you in the mall. We see you like this fool at my job standing outside underneath the flag. Your home, like Allah says, your home is better for you than anywhere else except the mosque. If you a man, everybody understand that. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Yeah, so it reminds me of good deeds. You know, even though it's salat, you know, it's better to do good deeds in secret, in private, than to
That's the point.
do them to be seen in front of the public, like saying, look at me, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So it's the same thing as with the voluntary prayers, which you do say, especially the man at home, and the voluntary prayers you say at the mosque if you're a man.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Not standing out in the airport, not standing out in a shopping mall, not standing out in the middle of the street. There's some, remember how many of you seen, here's a news flash. A man stopped the traffic on Central Avenue he said he had to perform his prayer. Excuse me. What are you doing? You know, that's what this is talking about. Yes, go ahead, Sister Maylium.
I was gonna say that like this hadith itself reminds me about how like modesty can be like applied in different forms. It's not always like clothing, but like when you're in the public as like a woman, there should be like some sort of like uncomfortableness to stand outside and just like bending over and doing all those movements. And I think about that a lot. Like I went traveling recently and I was like, maybe I should I was trying to figure out where to pray, but then something in the back of my mind told me not to do it in front of everyone, because there's something about that is just odd. And it's just like, I don't think Allah would be like very pleased. I know sometimes when we try to do something righteous or like noble, we think that everybody else has to see it, or we're good people, so we got to prove others this is how we do it. And it's like, no, like certain things should just be like private And it should be anything that's done privately for me personally is more sincere than doing it in the public.
And that's the whole point of this hadith. Now, for a woman, it's totally different. A woman ain't got no business praying out in the public, period. This is one of the signs of the last hour. You turn on the news and you will see women screaming the adhan and bending their behinds over in the mall. Now, that's a sacrilege. A woman should know better. We definitely ain't got no business making a public spectacle of ourselves anywhere. You know, but a lot of Muslim women are doing that. There's a, like she said, a certain humbleness, a certain shame, a certain modesty that we should have as believers, where we couldn't imagine ourselves in those type of situations, more or less doing them. But it shows how we deviate away from true Islam. Go ahead, Sister Musa.
It's Nurtel, but okay.
My baby! That's my favorite, y'all. There's my baby.
Yeah, I'm not.
Where you been?
Guys. Oh, I've just been very busy with school and stuff.
Well, I want to see you back up in here.
No, I was helping them move and stuff, so they're moving to a different
These
house.
old women driving me crazy, Norto.
But let me get back to the hadith. I think for me is when one starts to do deeds outside their homes, it starts to like lead to other sins, such as like showing off and just like that. One sin leads to another, and the next thing you know, you being arrogance. That's because when you start to show off, you start to be arrogant. And as Muslims, we know only arrogance and pride belongs to Allah. So, we should be humble in the things we do, because at the end of the day, Allah is only rewarding you for the intention that belongs to Him and not other people. So that's what I take from it.
Exactly, guys. As Muslims, we're supposed to be people of dignity and people of humbleness. A humble believer wouldn't stand in a daggone mall screaming the adhan and letting the world watch him and her bend over and pray. A Muslim that's humble, would understand, well, honey, let me go by the mosque and make salat right quick. And, I'll drop you off at home. Or you can pray in the mosque too. We don't do that. Not the believers. Yes, go ahead, Brother Ahmad.
Okay, and just want to add about intention, like we need to check our intention before doing any good deed, even in private. Are you doing for the sake of Allah, or are you doing for pleasing other people?
Exactly. Remember, the Prophet taught us to hold ourselves to account. One of the signs of a believer is a believer always holds himself to account before doing the deed, and he holds himself to account after doing it. How does he hold himself to account before doing the deed? Well, he does it by checking his intentions. Why am I doing this? Am I doing it for fame? Am I doing it for fortune? Or am I doing it because I want my Lord to be pleased? And then he holds himself accountable after doing the deed by asking himself, did I do it the way the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam legislated? Did I deviate away from the Quran and Sunnah in performing this deed? So again, like Brother Emma said, we all need to get in the habit, especially since Ramadan is right around the corner next week. We all need to get in the habit of holding ourselves accountable before and after doing deeds. Subhanallah. Any other comments? MashaAllah. Let's look at this hadith again. And again, this is speaking about the voluntary prayer of a man. The voluntary prayer of a man in a place where no one can see him is equal to 25 times his prayer where people can see him. He's talking about, the prophet is speaking about praying outside the home here. Now, we know that the obligatory prayers of a man are supposed to be performed in the mosque. But to be walking down the street and all of a sudden, let me make 2 sunnahs. And you're going to stop the traffic because you want to perform 2 sunnahs. Or you want to do the winter prayer. You're going to stand out in the desert, at nighttime, knowing that everybody trying to sleep. Allahu Akbar. Astaghfirullah. Go in your tent and perform your witr prayer. Because remember, showing off is something that we all suffer with as human beings. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, beware of the hidden shirk. The hidden shirk is inconspicuous. It'll creep up on you. It'll make you go out of your tent and stand in the middle of the night when people are trying to sleep and call out and glorify your Lord just to be seen. We have to be careful of this, guys. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining and participating in this session of our Hadith class. Please make sure everybody is here tomorrow. We'll continue our lectures on Ramadan, the rulings of fasting. And again, for Ramadan, we'll start, inshallah, sometime next week. We'll let you guys know when we sight the moon. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.